So for today's discussion board forum, I'm going to be talking about Billy Graham and his crusades during his career. So Billy Graham in 2018 is a household name to many, especially in Christian America. His influence as an evangelist was extensive and spanned many, many years, most of his life. And he was known a great deal for his crusades, as well as known for meeting with all of the presidents from Truman to Obama. So he was, according to the PBS documentary, he was able to blend Christianity and patriotism, and I really liked the way that they phrased that. So I'm going to focus on his crusades throughout his career. So just some background on Billy Graham. He was born in 1918 in North Carolina on a dairy farm. He would eventually attend Wheaton College in Illinois and began working for Youth for Christ. And then in the late 1940s, his crusades began. Some of the most notable and memorable crusades took place in Los Angeles. Part of the reason was Los Angeles was considered the Sin City because of Hollywood and the movie industry and that growth during 1949 when that crusade took place. He also is known for his crusades at Madison Square Garden in New York, and then he served all over the world. His crusades reached millions of people throughout the world. So what did people seek from these crusades that Billy Graham went on? Well, according to Curtis Evans, these things varied. So they were looking for advice for practical living, issues of loneliness or addiction. They were looking to be encouraged to commit to something deeper. And those who struggle with things in their personal lives, they just looked to these crusades and to what Billy Graham had to say. One quote from one of the articles stated, "He was America's pastor who both confronted many and challenged them to live up to their self-professed values of biblical equality, moral integrity, and social compassion." So these crusades, they were made possible through the local churches. Billy Graham was a Southern Baptist, but he was a Protestant. So many people attended these crusades, but the local churches made that possible through their ability to mobilize and get people to those crusades. One of the first-hand accounts from another article by Grant Wacker, he was at Madison Square Garden when he was a young kid, and he remembers going and listening to Billy Graham speak, and what he had to say was, "I remember he was witty and charismatic, and at the end of the sermon, thousands surged forward to give or recommit their lives to Christ." So this was not uncharacteristic of those crusades. That's what happened. Often the crusades were extended longer because thousands of people were coming and listening to what Graham had to say. And the way that Wacker describes the scene at Madison Square Garden is kind of what I imagine it would be like to hear Billy Graham speak, and through other things that I've heard, and seen YouTube videos, because he lived in a time where television and we're able to see that. But that's just what I picture of him. Every time I hear a video about him, I listen, because his aura was so charismatic that even today I want to listen to what he has to say. His words are still relevant. So in his lifetime, through this kind of these crusades, these outreach, he was able to reach 215 million people in person in more than 185 different countries and territories. He was able to share his message also through other forms of media, such as radio, and other print documents, such as newspapers, magazines, and books. So in closing, overall, Billy Graham is considered to be America's pastor because of all he gave through his life of service.